The sky above Earth burned red that evening. It was not sunset. It was something else, something no one had ever seen before. Across the empty fields and quiet cities, people looked up as lights moved like falling stars, bright and fast. But they were not stars. They were ships. Dozens of dark silver ships broke through the clouds, leaving trails of fire behind. Earth was being invaded. Far away in space on a planet called Orion, these aliens had planned their invasion for years. They believed Earth was an easy world, filled with soft creatures who had forgotten how to fight. Their leader, Commander Varrock, stood in his control chamber and watched the blue planet on the screen. "This world will be ours by morning," he said proudly. His soldiers cheered. They did not know what waited for them. As the ships entered Earth's atmosphere, strong winds and strange noises filled the air. The invaders landed in different places, forests, deserts, mountains, to test the planet's strength. Commander Varrock and his team landed in a thick forest, dark and cold. The trees were tall and twisted, their roots like bones sticking from the ground. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Even the air felt heavy, almost like the forest was breathing. Varrock stepped out of the ship and looked around. "Strange world," he said, scanning the trees. "No sound, no movement." One of his soldiers laughed. "Commander, maybe this planet is already dead." The others smiled, feeling brave. They started setting up their base, tents, machines, scanners. But deep in the trees, something was watching them. Hours passed. The soldiers worked, scanned the area, and tested the air. Everything seemed fine. Yet one soldier named Kor couldn't stop looking into the woods. He felt something moving, not seen but felt, like eyes staring from behind the fog. "Commander," Kor said slowly, "this forest." "It feels alive." Varrock ignored him. "Stay focused," he ordered. "We have nothing to fear here." That night the fog grew thicker. A cold wind blew through the trees, carrying strange whispers. The soldiers gathered around their energy lamps, trying to stay warm. Kor was still uneasy. He walked a few steps into the dark, holding a scanner. It beeped, once, twice, then went silent. "Strange," he whispered. The signal just vanished. He took another step and suddenly the forest went quiet. Completely quiet. Not even wind. A shadow moved behind him. He turned fast, nothing there. He stepped back toward the camp. Another sound, crunch like a footstep. Kor raised his weapon, his hands shaking. "Who's there?" he called. No answer, only silence. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw something tall between the trees. Glowing eyes, red like fire, watching him. Before he could speak, something leaped from the darkness. A loud scream echoed through the woods and then silence again. The soldiers ran toward the sound, lights flashing. But there was no Kor, only his scanner lying on the ground, broken in half. "Maybe an animal," one said nervously. "No animal can move that fast," another replied. Commander Varrock frowned. "Search the area." "Find him!" They looked for hours but found nothing. The night grew colder and a strange smell filled the air, like burnt metal and smoke. When dawn came, they found strange marks on the ship's hull, long, deep claw marks. "What creature could do this?" Varrock whispered. His soldiers looked frightened now. The forest no longer seemed quiet. It seemed to be whispering to them. Trees swayed though there was no wind, and shapes moved just beyond their vision. They decided to move deeper into the forest to look for the missing man. As they walked, they noticed something unusual. The deeper they went, the more the ground pulsed softly, like it had a heartbeat. One soldier placed his hand on the soil. "It's warm," he said. "The ground is warm." Varrock felt a sudden chill. "Keep moving," he ordered, but his voice was less confident now. Then, from nowhere, a loud roar shook the air. Birds burst from the trees. The soldiers raised their weapons, forming a circle. The sound came closer, crashing, thundering footsteps. But nothing appeared. The scanners showed no life forms, yet the ground shook as if a giant walked nearby. Suddenly, something slammed into one of the soldiers, throwing him into a tree. His armor broke and he screamed in pain before vanishing into the fog. The others fired in panic, beams of light flashing through the forest, but they hit nothing. The fog swallowed everything. When the noise stopped, 2 more soldiers were gone. Only their weapons remained. Varrock shouted, "Fall back!" "Return to the ship." They ran, stumbling over roots, hearts pounding. But when they reached the clearing, their ship's lights were off. The power was gone. The control panel sparked and died. The forest was now filled with whispers, low, slow voices calling their names. Varrock, Varrock. He turned around. Red eyes glowed between the trees, dozens of them. The monsters were not far now. Varrock lifted his weapon and whispered to himself, "What kind of world is this?" The ground trembled again, and something enormous moved in the darkness. The commander finally understood. This planet was not weak. It was alive, and it was angry. As the fog swallowed the camp, the forest went quiet again, as if nothing had ever happened. Only the broken ship and scattered armor were left behind. Somewhere deep in the trees, a pair of glowing eyes blinked and disappeared. The forest was silent after the attack, but that silence was not peace. It was the kind that comes before something worse. Commander Varrock stood near the half-destroyed ship, breathing heavily. Around him only 5 soldiers remained. The others were gone. No trace, no sound, nothing but broken helmets and deep marks on the ground. The morning light could barely pass through the thick fog. Everything looked gray and dead. Varrock touched the ship's metal wall. It was cold, lifeless. The power cells were empty, drained as if something had sucked the energy out. "They are playing with us," one soldier said in fear. "They are watching." Varrock didn't answer. He just stared into the forest, feeling those same eyes from last night, eyes that glowed behind the mist. He ordered his men to repair the power unit. "We must leave this place before night," he said. The soldiers worked fast, their hands shaking. The tools made strange echoing sounds that disappeared too quickly, as if the air itself swallowed them. Hours passed, but the power unit refused to start. One soldier checked the wires. "Commander, it's like the metal is melting inside." Varrock frowned. "That's impossible." But it was true. The technology they trusted was failing in ways no one could explain. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the forest. Everyone froze. It was a human scream, not alien, not animal. A voice calling for help. "Someone's alive," a soldier shouted. Varrock looked at him sharply. "No one could survive that attack," he said, but the scream came again, louder this time. "Please, help." Varrock hesitated, then nodded. "Take 2 men. Find the source. Be quick." The soldiers ran toward the sound, weapons ready. Minutes turned into an hour. The forest grew darker. The scream stopped. Then, a loud crash came from the same direction. Varrock and the others rushed to help, but when they arrived, there was no one, only the soldiers' helmets lying on the ground, split open. Blood marks led into the fog. Varrock's heart sank. "We are not fighting creatures," he whispered. "We are fighting the planet itself." He didn't know why he said it, but deep inside he knew it was true. The air around them hummed with a low vibration like a heartbeat. They decided to move toward higher ground, hoping to find better signal or maybe another landing site. As they walked, they saw strange things, trees growing in perfect circles, stones carved with unknown symbols, and glowing blue plants that moved when touched. The planet was full of life, but it was not friendly. One soldier, Rin, pointed ahead. "Commander, look!" Between 2 trees stood an old human sign, rusted, broken, but readable. It said, "Restricted Zone. Keep out." Varrock stared at it, confused. "Humans lived here?" he asked. Rin nodded. Maybe they're still here. That thought gave them both hope and fear. If humans still lived in such a place, what had they become? As they moved forward, they found an old village hidden under thick vines. Small huts made of metal and wood, half destroyed, covered in moss. It looked abandoned, yet something about it felt alive. The air smelled of smoke. Varrock entered one hut carefully, his weapon ready. Inside, he found strange drawings on the wall, shapes of humans standing beside large beasts, fighting together against dark figures that looked like aliens. "What is this?" Rin asked, staring at the drawings. Varrock didn't answer. He felt a chill run down his back. "They knew," he said softly. "They knew we would come." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. Slow, heavy, deliberate. The soldiers aimed their weapons toward the door. A shadow moved, tall, human-shaped. Then another. And another. Out of the fog stepped 3 figures. They were human, or at least they looked human. Their clothes were made from animal skins, their faces painted with dark symbols. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. One of them, a woman with long black hair, stepped forward. She held a spear made of bone and metal, You don't belong here, she said coldly. Varrock lowered his weapon slightly. We came in peace. We mean no harm, the woman laughed. A short, harsh laugh. That's what they all say before they destroy. The soldiers looked at each other, confused. You know who we are? Rin asked. The woman nodded. We know your kind. You came before. You always come to take, Varrock tried to reason. We only wish to study your world. Our people. The woman stood slowly, her gaze fixed on him. You again, she said coldly. You should have left when you had the chance. I can't leave, Varrock said, his voice shaking slightly. My ship is destroyed. My people are gone. Please, I just want to understand. The woman studied him for a moment, then motioned for her guards to lower their weapons. You seek understanding? She said quietly. Then follow me. Varrock followed her into the camp. The humans watched him closely but did not attack. They passed through a narrow path leading to a cave at the edge of the settlement. Inside, glowing crystals lit the walls, casting soft blue light over strange carvings, humans, creatures, and symbols that looked alive. This is where it began, the woman said. Long ago, after your kind left this planet to die. Varrock frowned. My kind. Yes, she replied. The first invaders, from Orion, centuries ago. You came for our resources, our land, our oceans. You poisoned the air and took what you wanted. But something changed. The planet woke up. It remembered every wound, every scar, and it started to fight back. Varrock's chest tightened. That can't be true. We never, she interrupted sharply. You did. Maybe not you, but your ancestors did. And Earth has never forgotten. She touched one of the carvings on the wall. It glowed softly, showing images, ships falling from the sky, explosions, fire, and humans merging with strange energy. When the planet awoke, we were dying, she said. But instead of killing us, it offered us life, a connection. We became one with it. The air we breathe, the ground we walk, even the creatures you call monsters, they are part of us. Varrock felt a chill crawl down his spine. You mean, the planet gave you power? She nodded. Yes, and protection. We live with it, not against it. That is why your weapons don't work here. That is why your machines fail. The planet rejects your kind. Varrock was silent. He finally understood what the glowing figure had meant. This world was alive, and everything on it served a single purpose: to defend itself. He looked at the woman. If you have this power, why not destroy us completely? Her expression softened. Because once we were like you, blind, greedy, lost. Killing you won't change what's already been done. But the planet has its own will. It decides who stays and who disappears. Suddenly the ground trembled again. Outside, the sound of roaring filled the air. The woman turned sharply. They've come, she said. Who? Varrock asked. She looked toward the cave entrance, where the red light of fire flickered in the distance. Your people. The rest of your army. They have landed. Varrock's eyes widened. No, they'll destroy everything. The woman met his gaze with cold calm. Then your world will finally see why this planet is called a death world. Outside, the night exploded with light. Ships descending, weapons firing, forests burning. The monsters roared, the humans prepared for battle, and Varrock stood between two worlds, one that created him, and one that wanted to erase him. He realized then that no matter who won, something greater was waking beneath their feet, something ancient, powerful, and alive, and it was angry. The sky was no longer red, it was on fire. Dozens of Orion warships broke through the clouds, lighting up the night like a storm of burning stars. The ground shook as explosions echoed across the forest. Commander Varrock stood beside the human woman, watching in silence. His face was pale, his eyes wide. They came for me, he whispered. They think I'm still alive. The woman didn't look at him. Her gaze was fixed on the sky, her hands tightening around her spear. They won't leave until this planet is dead, she said quietly. The forest around them was alive with movement. Humans rushed to prepare, weapons forged from bone and energy, creatures gathering near the village like an army. The air pulsed with power. Every leaf, every stone, every root vibrated softly as if the ground itself was breathing faster. Varrock stepped forward. You have to run, he said. You can't fight them. Their weapons can destroy cities. You'll all die. The woman turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. You still don't understand, Commander. We are not running. We are the planet. A deep rumble rose beneath their feet. Varrock stumbled back as cracks appeared in the earth, glowing with blue light. From the cracks came strange shapes, roots, stones, and molten earth twisting together into giant figures. They were the guardians, creatures made of the planet itself. The woman raised her spear. This is not a war between armies. It's a war between life and greed. Varrock looked up at the sky again. His communicator suddenly came alive, crackling with static. "Commander Varrock," a voice said. "We see you on the ground. Stay clear. We're initiating bombardment," Varrock shouted into the device. "No, stop. There are living people here." "You'll destroy everything." But the reply was cold and robotic. "The mission must continue. Earth's resources are valuable. Prepare for extraction." Varrock's heart sank. His people didn't care. They would burn the planet if it meant taking what they wanted. The first energy blasts hit the ground miles away, shaking the forest like thunder. Trees fell, fire spread, and smoke filled the air. The humans didn't scream or run. They moved as one, calm and focused. The monsters roared, standing in front of them like shields. The woman looked at Varrock. "If you truly want to understand, then fight with us. Otherwise, die with your kind." Varrock hesitated. He looked at his weapon, small, powerless against such destruction. But then he looked at the people around him, humans who had lost everything and still refused to give up. He thought of the soldiers he had lost, the arrogance of his people, the warning he had ignored. He threw his communicator to the ground and crushed it under his boot. "I'll fight with you," he said quietly. The woman nodded once. "Then may the planet see your heart." The next explosion landed close to the village, throwing Varrock to the ground. The creatures roared and charged forward, their bodies absorbing the heat and energy from the blasts. The forest came alive. Roots shot from the ground, wrapping around falling debris and crushing it. The sky lit up with strange lights, and for a moment, it looked as if the planet itself was fighting back. Varrock grabbed a fallen Orion weapon from the ground. It flickered weakly, almost dead, but as he held it, the glowing roots around him touched its surface. The weapon hummed and came alive again, shining with green light. He looked at the woman in shock. "It's working." She smiled faintly. "The planet has chosen you." Varrock fired at the sky. His energy beam struck one of the incoming ships, making it spin and crash into the forest. The explosion sent fire in every direction, but the flames turned blue and disappeared as the earth swallowed them whole. Above, the other ships fired again. The night became chaos, light, smoke, and screams. Varrock and the woman fought side by side. The monsters leapt into the air, dragging down drones with their claws. The humans fired arrows that glowed like lightning. Then the ground began to split open. From deep below came a sound, low and heavy, like the heartbeat of a giant. The sky flickered and lightning struck the ships one by one. The woman looked up and whispered, "It's awake." Varrock turned to her. "What's awake?" "The planet," she said. Earth has finally opened its eyes. The shaking grew stronger. Entire trees lifted from the ground, forming a wall of roots that rose hundreds of feet high, blocking the alien ship's view. The ships fired at it, but the wall absorbed the blasts and sent the energy back, destroying them. One ship after another fell from the sky, burning like dying stars. The Orion fleet was being torn apart. Not by humans, not by monsters, but by the planet itself. Varrock fell to his knees, staring at the destruction. He felt the vibration through his body, through his bones. The planet wasn't just fighting, it was communicating. He could feel its rage, its pain, its sadness. He realized now what the glowing figure had meant. This world remembers. As the last ship crashed in the distance, the forest grew silent again. Smoke rose into the dark sky. The woman stood beside him, breathing hard but calm. "It's over," she said softly. Varrock looked at the ground beneath him, still glowing faintly. "No," he whispered. "It's only beginning. My people will send more. They will come in greater numbers." The woman's eyes softened. "Then they will learn the same lesson you did." She looked toward the horizon, where the fire slowly faded into dawn. "This planet is not a prize. It's a warning." Varrock looked up at the sky where only ashes remained. He finally understood. Earth wasn't just alive. It was protecting life itself, even from those who claimed to bring progress. He felt the ground's warmth under his hands and whispered, "Forgive us." The woman turned and began walking toward the forest. "The planet already has," she said quietly. but it never forgets. Behind them, the earth healed itself. The smoke faded, the fire vanished, and the sky slowly turned blue again. And far above, in the cold emptiness of space, the remnants of the Orion fleet drifted silently, carrying one final message back to their world. Do not return. Earth is not what it seems. It is alive, and it will fight back. Before he could finish, the woman raised her hand. The ground beneath them trembled. From the trees, more humans appeared, dozens of them, silent and watching. Beside them, huge shapes moved, creatures with glowing eyes and stone-like skin. They were the monsters from last night. But now, standing beside the humans, they didn't seem wild. They looked controlled, trained. Varrock finally understood. The humans and the monsters were one. They lived together. They fought together. This planet protects its own, the woman said softly, and it remembers every wound. The ground shook again. One of the creatures roared, a deep thunder that made the trees shake. The soldiers backed away in fear. Varrock tried to hold his ground. If you kill us, others will come, he warned. The woman looked at him with sad eyes. Then they will die too. Before anyone could react, the creatures moved, fast and silent. In seconds, the soldiers were surrounded. Varrock shouted, "Hold your fire!" But it was too late. Beams of light shot through the mist. The creatures roared, attacking with impossible speed. The air was filled with smoke, screams, and flashing light. When it was over, the village was quiet again. The woman walked among the ruins, stopping beside Varrock, who lay on the ground, wounded but alive. She looked down at him and said, "Now you know why this world is called a death world." Then she turned and disappeared into the fog, leaving Varrock alone with the sounds of the living forest, breathing, whispering, waiting for the next trespasser. Commander Varrock lay on the cold ground, surrounded by the wreckage of his fallen soldiers in the silent forest. His armor was cracked, his face covered in dirt and blood. The creatures were gone now, and the strange humans who led them had disappeared into the mist. Only the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. Varrock tried to stand, but pain shot through his leg. He leaned against a broken wall and looked up at the dark sky. "Death world," he muttered. The woman's words echoed in his mind. What kind of place was this planet? How could humans survive here when even the most advanced weapons had failed? He checked his communicator, but there was only static. The ship's systems were dead. His soldiers were gone. He was alone. For the first time in his life, Commander Varrock felt fear. Not the fear of death, but the fear of being watched. As the fog moved, he thought he saw shadows sliding between the trees. But when he turned his head, there was nothing there. He began to walk, limping, searching for any sign of life. The forest floor was covered in thick moss that seemed to move slightly under his feet. Every sound felt too close, too real. Hours passed. Varrock found a small stream and drank from it. The water was cold and clear, but it left a strange taste in his mouth, metallic, almost electric. When he looked down, he saw tiny lights flickering under the water's surface, like fireflies trapped inside the stream. "The planet's energy," he whispered. "It's alive." He decided to follow the stream, hoping it would lead him to the edge of the forest or another landing zone. But the deeper he went, the more unnatural things became. Trees bent toward him as if they were watching. The ground pulsed softly, and strange lights moved beneath the soil. He felt dizzy. The air itself seemed to hum. Then a familiar voice broke the silence. "Commander Varrock," he froze. The voice was calm, deep, and echoed all around him. He turned in every direction but saw no one. "Who's there?" he shouted. The voice replied, "You do not belong here. Show yourself," Varrock demanded, raising his weapon. Suddenly the air shimmered, and from the mist emerged a shape, a glowing figure, tall and faceless, like a human made of light and smoke. Varrock stepped back, heart pounding. "What are you?" The figure's voice was neither male nor female. "We are the guardians of this world. We are what your kind calls monsters." Varrock couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're not real." "You're a projection." The figure moved closer. "Your kind believes everything can be conquered, controlled, or destroyed. You came here to take. But this world gives nothing freely." Varrock's weapon trembled in his hands. "We only wanted resources, minerals, energy." The figure's light flickered as if angry. "Energy? You mean life? The energy you seek is the heartbeat of this world. It lives, it breathes, and it remembers. Varrock took a step back, his face pale. "You're saying the planet is alive?" "Yes," the figure said. "Earth is not a rock in space. It is a living being. It feels every wound, every explosion, every burn. It watched your kind destroy other worlds. And now, it defends itself." Before Varrock could speak again, the figure vanished, leaving behind only a whisper. "Leave, or be buried with those who came before you." Varrock stood frozen. He didn't understand how, but deep inside, he felt the truth of those words. The planet was alive and angry. He continued walking until he found a clearing. There, half buried under the dirt, stood an old human facility. Rusted metal walls, broken towers, and strange symbols marked across the entrance. He pushed open the heavy door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust. Inside he found old machines, data screens covered in webs, and human skeletons sitting silently at their stations. Varrock wiped the dust from a screen and tried to power it on. To his surprise, it flickered to life for a moment. A video log appeared. A human scientist's face filled the screen, tired, dirty, but calm. "If anyone finds this," the recording said, "know this truth. Earth changed after the war." The planet woke up. It started fighting back. Our weapons turned against us. Our machines stopped working. We learned to live with it, not on it. The ones who refused to adapt vanished. The recording ended with a soft, static hum. Varrock stared at the screen, speechless. The pieces finally began to fit together. Why the technology failed, why the creatures attacked, why humans looked different now. They had evolved with the planet. Then the building began to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. The floor cracked and green light glowed through it. Varrock ran outside just as the entire facility sank into the ground. The forest moved again, the trees twisting like arms. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. He looked up at the red sky and shouted, "We didn't come to destroy you!" But the ground answered with a deep rumble, almost like a growl. The forest around him darkened. Somewhere above the clouds, Varrock's mothership orbited silently. He tried his communicator again. This time a voice responded, not from the ship, but from the planet itself. "Your people will not leave," it said. "They are already part of me." The signal ended. Varrock stared at the device in horror. He realized the truth. The planet was not just alive. It was consuming them. Slowly. Silently. The last sound he heard before night fell was the whispering of the forest. Not words this time, but laughter. Commander Varrock woke up in the middle of the night, his head pounding. He had no idea how long he had been unconscious. The fog was thicker now, glowing faintly green, and the air felt heavier, as if it carried a pulse. The forest around him was silent, but not calm. It was listening. Every time he moved, the trees seemed to shift, their branches creaking softly. He looked at his communicator again. Dead. No power, no signal. The screen showed only faint static that looked almost like a heartbeat. He stared at it for a moment before turning it off. The planet had taken everything from him, his soldiers, his ship, his tools, even his pride. Now he was just a stranger lost in a world that didn't want him. Varrock began walking again, using the faint light from the sky to find his way. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to keep moving. The air was thick and wet, and every breath tasted like metal. Strange lights flickered between the trees, not fire, not machines, but something alive. Then he saw it, a dim glow far ahead. He moved closer, slowly, trying not to make noise. As he reached the edge of a small valley, he stopped and stared in disbelief. There was a settlement below, not alien, but human. Small huts made of wood and stone surrounded a large fire pit. People moved around quietly, their bodies covered in rough clothing made from animal hides and strange plant fibers. Some carried weapons made of bone and metal. Others guided giant creatures that looked like wolves but had glowing blue eyes. Varrock's heart pounded. These were humans, survivors, but they were not like the humans from history records. They looked stronger, tougher, and their eyes had a faint shimmer, like they carried light inside them. He hid behind a fallen tree and watched. A group of children ran past, laughing, followed by an older man with scars on his face. The people looked peaceful, even happy. But around their camp, creatures stood guard. Tall beasts with thick skin and sharp claws, the same monsters that had attacked his team. Yet these humans walked beside them like friends. Varrock couldn't believe it. They've bonded with the planet, he whispered. They're part of it now. Then he saw her. The same woman from before. The one who had led the attack. She was sitting near the fire, sharpening her spear. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked sad, almost human in their pain. Varrock decided to take a risk. He stepped out from the shadows and raised his hands. I mean no harm, he said softly. The humans around the fire turned instantly, weapons ready. The beasts growled, their eyes glowing brighter. The morning after the battle was strangely peaceful. The sky was calm, washed in soft light, and the air smelled of rain instead of smoke. Birds began to sing again, and for the first time in years the forest was silent, not from fear, but from peace. Varrock sat near a stream, staring at his reflection. His once shiny armor was cracked, covered with soil and ash. His face looked older. His eyes, once filled with arrogance, were now filled with confusion and regret. He touched the water and watched the ripples fade away. Behind him, the woman appeared. She moved quietly, her feet barely touching the ground. You should rest, she said softly. You've been awake all night. Varrock didn't look at her. I can't sleep, he said. Every time I close my eyes, I see the faces of my soldiers and the flames in the sky. She sat beside him. You tried to save them. That's more than your people would do for you. He shook his head. No, I tried to save myself. I was scared. I thought this planet was the enemy, but now, I don't know what we are fighting anymore. The woman watched him quietly. You're not the first alien who came here and changed, she said. Earth has that effect on everyone who tries to conquer it. Varrock turned to her. You mean others came before us? She nodded. Yes, many. Some long before humans existed. They came for power, for resources, for control. But the planet never allowed them to stay. It remembers every wound. Varrock looked around. The forest was alive again. Flowers blooming where craters had been. Animals returning to the river. It was beautiful, but there was something strange too. The air felt heavy, like it was watching. Why did the planet spare me? Varrock asked quietly. The woman's expression softened. Because you listened. Because for the first time, someone from the stars didn't just take, they felt. He fell silent. Her words echoed in his mind. Because you felt. Then in the distance a sharp sound broke the calm. The crackle of energy. Varrock jumped to his feet. The woman looked toward the noise. They're here, she said. From beyond the trees, lights appeared. Not the glowing lights of Earth's energy, but cold metallic beams. A group of surviving Orion soldiers stepped out, weapons raised, their armor shining silver. They looked tired, scared, and angry. The leader, Captain Yura, recognized Varrock instantly. Commander, you're alive, he shouted, walking forward. We thought you were dead. Varrock didn't move. I might as well be, he said softly. Yura frowned. We need to leave. The fleet is gone, but we can signal the base for reinforcements. We can still finish this mission. Varrock stepped between him and the woman. No, the mission ends here. Yura blinked in confusion. What are you saying? Varrock raised his hand. You don't understand. This world is not what we thought. It's alive, it's aware. The soldiers exchanged glances. One of them laughed nervously. You've gone mad, Commander. Varrock's voice hardened. Look around you. Do you see the forest healing itself? Do you see how your sensors don't work here anymore? This planet has power beyond anything we've seen. Yura's face twisted with anger. We didn't come all this way to turn back empty-handed. The Council will destroy this planet if we fail. Varrock stepped closer. Then they'll die trying. The two men stood face to face, tension thick in the air. The soldiers behind Yura lifted their weapons. The humans hidden among the trees aimed their bows. For a moment, it felt like the war would start again. But before anyone could move, the ground trembled. The air shimmered with blue light. The trees whispered, and a deep voice filled the air. Not human, not alien, but something older. Enough. Everyone froze. The voice was calm, yet it shook their bones. The forest glowed brighter. The woman closed her eyes and bowed her head. The planet speaks. Varrock looked around, terrified but in awe. Earth, it's talking. The voice came again, soft but powerful. You came to take. You destroyed what you did not understand. But you, Varrock, have changed. You have seen life beyond conquest. Yura dropped his weapon, his face pale. This can't be real, the voice continued. Leave this world. Take with you the truth, not the greed. The next time you return, there will be no mercy. The ground began to glow beneath their feet, forming a circle of light. One by one, the Orion soldiers were lifted off the ground, floating upward as if carried by invisible hands. They screamed, but no pain came, only silence and light. Then they vanished into the sky. Varrock stood alone, shaking. Why did you let me stay?" he whispered. The voice softened. "Because every world needs a witness." The light faded, the forest grew still again. The woman opened her eyes. "It spared you, Varrock. You're part of its story now." He sank to his knees, exhausted, overwhelmed. "What am I supposed to do now?" She smiled faintly. "Learn, listen, and maybe one day teach others what you've seen." He looked at her, his voice trembling. "Will they believe me?" Her eyes were kind yet distant. "It doesn't matter if they believe. The truth doesn't need belief, and it needs a voice." As the sun rose over the horizon, the forest shimmered with golden light. Varrock stood, feeling the warmth on his face. The war was over, but his journey had just begun. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the planet was still watching, waiting to see what kind of story he would write next. And far beyond the stars, the message continued to travel, not as a threat, but as a warning carved in the silence of space. Earth is not just a world. It is a living force. Those who come to conquer will leave as ghosts. The stars stretched endlessly across the dark sky as the small Orion transport ship drifted through space. Inside, silence filled the cabin except for the low hum of the engines. Commander Varrock sat alone, his head resting against the cold metal wall. His armor was gone. His once proud insignia had been stripped away. He was no longer a soldier, just a messenger, carrying a truth no one wanted to hear. He had left Earth behind, but Earth hadn't left him. Every night since his departure, he dreamed of the forest, of the glowing roots, of the voice that had spoken through the ground. Every world needs a witness. Those words echoed through his mind like a heartbeat. After weeks of travel, the ship finally reached Orion Prime, his homeworld. From orbit, it glowed silver and blue, a planet covered in metal and machines. It looked beautiful from space, but Varrock knew the truth. It was lifeless inside. No forests, no rivers, no wind. Just cities and smoke. The ship landed on a massive platform surrounded by tall towers that reached the clouds. Soldiers saluted as he stepped out, but their eyes were cold. They looked at him not as a hero, but as a ghost who had returned from a failed mission. A security officer approached. "Commander Varrock, the High Council awaits you. They demand a full report." Varrock nodded silently. His steps echoed as he walked through the long metallic corridor. Each wall was covered with glowing screens, showing maps of other worlds, all marked with red symbols of conquest. When he entered the council hall, the atmosphere was tense. 12 figures sat in a circular chamber, their faces hidden by silver masks. The head counselor spoke first. "Commander Varrock," the voice boomed, cold and sharp. "You return alone. Explain." Varrock stood tall, even though his heart was heavy. "The invasion failed," he said quietly. "Earth cannot be conquered." A murmur spread through the chamber. One of the counselors leaned forward. "Impossible. We sent an entire fleet. What destroyed them?" Varrock hesitated. "The planet itself." Laughter filled the room, cruel, mechanical laughter. "You mean the humans destroyed us?" Another said mockingly. Varrock shook his head. "No, not the humans. The planet, Earth, is alive. It fights back, it thinks. It remembers. I saw it." The council fell silent. The head counselor spoke again, slower this time. "You claim a planet has intelligence? You expect us to believe such nonsense?" Varrock took a step forward. "I don't expect belief. I expect you to listen. We went there for resources, for conquest. But Earth is different. It's a death world. Not because of its dangers, but because it protects itself. Every creature, every tree, every piece of soil is connected. When we attacked, the planet responded like a living being." The counselor on the right slammed his hand on the table. "You bring superstition into this hall. You disgrace the Orion name." Varrock met his gaze. "You sent thousands to die for greed. I saw their bodies burn. I heard their screams. If that is the Orion name, then maybe it deserves disgrace." Gasps filled the room. The head counselor's mask glowed red. "Careful, Commander. You speak as if you side with the enemy." Varrock's voice trembled but didn't break. "Maybe I do. Because for the first time I saw what life really means. Not machines, not control. Life that breathes, that feels, that remembers." The head counselor stood. "Enough. You have returned with lies and shame. You will be stripped of rank and confined until further notice. 2 guards stepped forward to take him. But Varrock didn't move. He looked around the room and said, "You think Earth is just another world? You think your weapons make you gods, but listen to me. If you go back, it will destroy you. Not just your ships, but your souls," the counselor sneered. "We will not be threatened by a broken soldier." Varrock stared at him. "Then you will be buried by your own arrogance." Before they could take him away, the ground beneath the chamber trembled. The lights flickered. The screens turned black, then flashed with static. Suddenly an image appeared, a planet covered in green and blue. Earth. Days turned into weeks, but Orion Prime never felt the same again. Ever since that night in the council hall, the whole planet was restless. Strange signals began to appear in their communication systems. Whispers, static, and flashes of light shaped like forests and oceans. The scientists called it interference. The priest called it a curse, but Varrock knew better. He had seen the truth. It wasn't interference. It was Earth, watching, waiting. He lived alone now, far from the city, in the old mining zone where metal and dust covered the ground. Every day he recorded what he remembered about Earth, its forests, its creatures, the voice that came from the soil. He knew someday someone would need to know. Then one night, as he sat writing by a dim light, he felt the ground shake beneath his feet. A low hum filled the air. His old communicator, long dead, began to glow again. He picked it up slowly. "Varrock," a voice whispered through the static. It wasn't Orion. It wasn't human. It was the same deep, powerful voice that had once spoken through the earth. Varrock's heart raced. You can reach me here?" The voice replied softly, almost like the wind. "You carried our warning. You listened when others would not." He stood, trembling. "Why are you here? What do you want from me?" There was silence for a moment. Then the voice said, "Your people prepare to return. Their greed blinds them again. If they come, we will defend once more, but it will not end with mercy." Varrock's blood ran cold. No, they wouldn't dare. The communicator flickered, and an image appeared. Hundreds of Orion ships being built, larger than before, brighter, armed with new weapons. The council had ignored everything. They were planning another invasion. Varrock's heart ached. "You'll destroy them all." "They have chosen destruction," the voice said calmly. "But you, Varrock, still have a choice. Save them, or let them learn." The light faded. The communicator went dead again. Varrock stood in silence, breathing hard. The fate of 2 worlds now rested in his hands. He couldn't let another war happen. He had to try, one last time. He took a transport ship and flew toward the capital. The guards didn't stop him this time. They recognized his face, the man who had spoken to the council and survived Earth's wrath. When he entered the council hall again, the room was full. Dozens of commanders, scientists, and politicians stood around a massive hologram of Earth spinning slowly in the air. The head counselor turned toward him, cold as ever. "Ah, the traitor returns," he said. "Come to watch us finish what you failed to do?" Varrock stepped forward. "Listen to me. You don't understand what you're doing. Earth is alive. It will destroy you again, and this time there will be no survivors." The counselor smiled bitterly. "We've improved our weapons. No planet can stand against us now." Varrock slammed his hand on the table. "It's not about weapons. It's not about power. You think you're gods, but you're children playing with fire." The room went silent. Varrock continued, his voice shaking but strong. "That world has a soul. It remembers every scar we left. It fights for balance, for life. You can't conquer something that's alive, you can only learn from it. But you're too blind to see." The head counselor stood. "Enough of this nonsense." "Guards!" Before he could finish, the hologram of Earth flickered again. The image changed. The oceans began to move, storms spinning, lights glowing across the continents. A pulse of blue light filled the chamber, and once again, a voice spoke. "Enough." The same deep sound that had haunted Varrock returned, shaking the walls. The floor split slightly, energy surging upward. The lights burst into green and gold. The soldiers fell to their knees, covering their ears. "You were warned," the voice said. "You seek war once more, but this time, the stars themselves will remember your greed." The counselor screamed, trying to shut down the systems, but their screens exploded in sparks. The hologram grew brighter until it filled the entire room. Varrock stepped forward into the light. "Please," he said softly, "don't destroy them. They're lost, not evil. They don't understand life the way you do. For a moment, everything stopped. The light dimmed slightly, as if the planet was listening. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time. You speak for them? Varrock nodded. Yes, give me time. Let me make them see what I saw. A long pause. Then the voice replied, Very well, you have one chance. Teach them. If they do not change, the stars will burn. The light vanished. The hall was silent except for the sound of breathing. Every counselor stared at Varrock in shock and fear. The head counselor's voice trembled. What was that? Varrock looked at him. That was mercy. Don't waste it, he turned and walked out, leaving them speechless. Outside, the Silver City glowed under a pale blue sky. For the first time in years, the wind blew softly across the metal towers, as if something had changed in the air itself. From that day, Varrock became a voice across the planet. He spoke to anyone who would listen, soldiers, engineers, children. He told them about Earth, about the forests that breathed, about the soil that remembered, about the voice that spoke not with anger but with warning. Some laughed at him. Some called him mad, but others began to wonder if a planet could live, could feel, could defend itself. Maybe their world could too. Years later, when Varrock was old and gray, he stood once more under the stars, looking toward the distant blue dot that was Earth. He smiled. You were right, he whispered. Every world needs a witness. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he could almost hear the soft heartbeat of a planet far away, calm, strong, alive. And as the stars shone brighter in the sky, a faint voice echoed in the wind, carrying across galaxies. The monsters were never us. They were the ones who forgot how to live.